I remember messing with kids about not being an Eagles fan. You know, the first day I show up at practice, one of my kids always say, yo, coach, what'd you think about that game last night? Did you see my boys? Like, that's being invested. How many coaches can you say are genuine? And I feel like I am. And because I am genuine, I've been able to relate to a lot of these kids. But knowing that 60% of kids right now leave because they didn't like a coach, we have to start looking at coaching too. What is that problem? How long do athletes stay with the same travel club? How many clubs will your son or daughter play during their career? What are the top reasons they actually leave for a different club? And what are some reasons you stay with a club? These are what we're going to dive into right here on this week's episode of Fighting for Overtime. We've all seen the kid who goes from one team to the next, year after year, just trying to get that trophy. But is it the only reason why they go back and forth? Are they ever successful? Are there kids who stay loyal to their club for their entire career and still make out in the end? We're going to dive all into that. This is Coach Tony again, Fighting for Overtime. This is episode 4 in the brand new podcast that talks about the anxiety plus the achievement of kids in youth sports and the mental health aspects, whether it be positive or negative, because every single situation affects the parent and the child when it comes to a youth sports program. And let's dive right into these stats that I think we all kind of known, but I've really researched this hard to give you some really hardcore evidence over the last year up to 2023 of what these numbers look like. So fewer than 2% of high school students are offered scholarship. Now, out of those 2%, only 1% is a full ride. Think about that. Now, the number could be astronomical, right? It's all over the world, but we don't actually know what that hardcore number is. So that 2% could be a big number, but it looks pretty minor to me when you talk about how hard people push to get to that level. Now, before we even get into why or what or how, let me just dive into these stats a little more. Now, going to make an NCAA roster, we'll talk about the boys right now. This is just to make a roster, okay? No matter what division, just to make a roster. In baseball, 8-1 odds. Basketball, 17-1. Football, 11-1. Soccer, 12-1. And tennis, 25-1. Now, again, that is the odds to make any roster for the boys at any collegiate level. Now, let's look at Division 1, right? That's just 1% tier of the full ride. NCAA Division 1 boys baseball, 43-1. Basketball, 110-1. Football, 33-1. Soccer, 108-1. And tennis, 155-1. These are huge odds. I think you really need to look at these from various different angles, whether you're a parent pushing for that Division 1 school or your child or you're a coach coaching that player. It's good to be transparent about these odds. It's good to let them understand not only how hard it is, but also how special it is if you do make it. And again, I'm going to get to a great feel-good story at the end of this that shows somebody who stayed with their club and trumped these odds, which I will get to in a minute. But let's get to the girls. Again, this is just the odds to make an NCAA roster. Softball, it's 10-1. Basketball, 14-1. Volleyball, 16-1. Soccer, 10-1. And tennis, 28-1. Now, out of the 1% to get the full ride, Division 1 girls odds: softball, 51-1. Basketball, 81-1. Volleyball, 83-1. Soccer, 41-1. And tennis, 182-1. Now, what do all these odds mean? It's very simple. When we grow up and we have this goal and this vision of what we want to be as an athlete, if I'm talking in the first person as myself being an athlete, what do we want to do as a parent of an athlete? What do we want to do as a coach of these athletes? Because that's a very important part too. We have to think about that, and we have to be realistic with these numbers. Like I said, everything is a mind game sometimes. There's a very huge emotional part of sports. Whether you're male or female, it doesn't matter. The emotional part of sports is a part of the game that is often overlooked by all, even yourself as the individual. And I look at all of these and I've seen it play out. I've seen the girls who I coached that the girl wanted to play Division 1. The parent, my girl's playing Division 1. She should be getting more playing time. She shouldn't be a pinch hitter. She should be starting at third because that's the position where they recruit the most. I've seen it all. I've seen it all. And what really sucks is when the player is being misled and pushed to the point of exhaustion and burnout and emotional breakdown because because maybe they finally feel it may not happen, or maybe, God forbid, it doesn't happen. And the emotional letdown is so extreme, only because they've been told by so many that this is going to happen. And that's what brings me to this topic of club jumping, of team jumping. And I asked in the beginning of the show, how long do athletes stay with the same travel club? Listen, I've researched this a lot because I wanted to give you guys a ton of information. Again, real fast, if you're not subscribed to the podcast, it'd be tremendous if you do, whether it be on Apple, Spotify, Podbean. If you just follow the podcast, give me a rating, give it a little, what you like about it, what you don't like about it, be great. I appreciate everybody who has sent me private messages on the topics that I've talked about, who've given me their own heartfelt messaging. And again, I may use that one day, but as an anonymous standpoint, but I would often ask you first instead of just using it. That being said, the amount of support and information that you as the community for Fighting for Overtime have given me has been on an extra exponential level. Really have. And it's given me so much material, which has really allowed me to be passionate and enjoy doing this every single week. And I often sit and I wonder, what am I going to talk about next? Even my wife will say to me, what's next? What's next week's episode? And I'll often think, what direction do I want to go into? And what that direction is it going to open up into another direction? And I think this topic was very important because a story hit close to home that I am going to get to later that really signified what I was thinking. And that topic, when it came up about how long do athletes stay with the same club, because I've seen it. Listen, I coach right now U17 boys. I love these kids, okay? And they are a mixture of kids that were in different townships. And trust me, I will get to a story about how this came to be later. That's going to involve stuff that'll make your head spin. When I talk to the police department, the fire chief, you name it, it's all there. Trust me, you do not want to miss these episodes. These are personal experiences that happened to me, okay? And don't forget to watch the previous episode on Daddy Ball where we talk about the letters that were written about me to tear me and my son down at a young level just because somebody's kid didn't make an all-star team. That's the kind of things that we talk about. But when I talked about how long athletes stay with the same travel club, I saw this story that played out in my own township that I thought was fantastic. And I knew this was going to open up so many different thoughts. And club switching is something that has been getting bigger and bigger year after year. It's very hard to keep a team together, let alone, based on working, boyfriends, girlfriends, school assignments, right? School ball. They're all huge issues that you have to kind of understand how to pivot with as these kids get older. And then it comes to the winning element. It comes to the forcing, where am I going to go to get that best option to be exposed and to be in the consideration to get one of these 2% or even 1% Division I scholarships. So looking at a lot of this, club switching, some of the results that I found were not really too surprising, okay? 3 of the 5 reasons that players leave a club that I've found out were, number 1, due to the coach. That's always going to be an issue, right? Do you like the coach? Do you not like the coach? Is he a good enough coach to get you where you need to go? And I'll be honest, like for me personally, am I a good enough coach to get a kid Division I scholarship? No. I knew that. That was not my MO. So what I did was I would always bring in somebody that was good enough. And my assistant is absolutely phenomenal. I played in college, played in an adult level. He is if without him, I am nothing. Okay. And that's when right? I'm the guy who can preach. I'm the guy who can be up in your face and challenge these kids with life lessons. But from the technical and the skills part, that's not me. That is 100% my assistant. And I am lucky and blessed to have him. And not all coaches will do that because they have their ego strong and they're afraid to bring that on. Not me. I knew my limitations. Number 2, not enough playing time. How many times do we hear that? My kid doesn't play enough. He or she should be on the field more. He or she is better than this person. Well, here's the thing. People don't understand situations. People don't understand the game aspect. And again, I say this all the time. I had a hard time too. Like, you're lying. If you've never watched the game and thought, why is my kid not in there? You're lying to yourself. It's okay. It's being human. But it's when you check yourself a little bit after the reality that you see play out is when we can say, are you human or are you toxic? To me, that's the difference. And I was able to get over that by asking some people that I truly respect. And then I saw how the game would play out. And I said, okay, I get it now. But that was big. That's me understanding my limitations, right? And me being human. And I think we can all do that. So I was able to build upon that. Some people cannot get past that. Number 3, the team was not being competitive. I get it. I've been on teams where we've got our heads bashed in. Lately, we've got got our heads bashed in again, and it's because my kids are older. They're 17, 18 years old. Some of them just turning 17, but a lot of things going on. There's a lot. I get it. And honestly, at this point in time, if you're not a ECNL club, if you're not a Cup United team, for the most part, it's going to be a bunch of kids who are very competitive, have fun playing with each other, and will have moments to where they can't make things because they're doing other things, they're playing other sports, they're working a full-time job. That's the thing too. There's a lot of decisions, and we're going to get into them later. I don't want to get into everything now because I have so many more episodes, but just when we talk about the fact of club switching and why it happens, there are the 3 top points and reasons why. 2 of those 5 reasons obviously focus on communication and player development. 46% of a lot of people surveyed on iSport said there was a lack of communication and feedback from the coach or a club. That's a big number. Lack of communication is definitely key. But it's a two-way street, right? It's a two-way street. The communication has to work both ways. The coach has to be 100% transparent of what he envisions with the team and individual players. I'm a big advocate when it comes to being one-on-one with players, what those expectations are, where we expect them to play, what kind of attitude we expect them to have. And I think that's very important, but there's a lot of coaches that aren't like that. So maybe if you're not getting that proper communication, that's one of the reasons why you jump ship. 45% indicate that they left the club due to the lack of player development, which, that comes to, the competitiveness, right? Where if you see the team consistently not getting any better, even going backwards sometimes, that's when you have to look at maybe it is a good reason to switch. And when I say switch, I mean go to a different club and try to build that there at that club. Not go a different club year after year after year after year. And I see it. It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. And it's a shame because how do you really formulate relationships? And I don't think you do. Nobody really, and it just shows that you're not a team guy. Sorry. You can argue with me that I'm blue in the face, but if you go to team after team after team, it's not about your Facebook posts about being, oh, these are a great group of kids. Love these kids. Well, if you love the kids so much, why the frig are you leaving? If you love everybody so much, why do you leave? I like to ask that to people. All the people, do me a favor. Everybody that posts on social media and says how wonderful the team is that they played on, then this isn't for everybody, but the people that team jump year after year, explain to me why you leave. It's such a great environment. Why do you leave? Because it's all about the individual and not about the team. It's very simple. You could spot that a mile away. Now, how long do players stay with their club? We asked that earlier. Over 41% say they stay with their club for 3 or more years, while 59% say they stay less than the 3 years. Interesting. That's more than half. Now, less than 1% said they would stay at their club for less than a year. So the same percentage of kids getting full NCAA Division I scholarships is the same percentage of saying that they're staying at their club less than a year. Coincidence? I think not. Now, how many clubs does a player play for in one sport? 43% stated that their player would play for 3 different clubs during their sports career. 32% at 2. And this can mean different things to different individuals. It could be based on different sports. It could be soccer versus baseball. It doesn't have to be for that one specific sport. Players should start out their career in any recreational program and then move up to a travel club program, or maybe a different level of the club. It all depends. But for the most part, 3 years seems to be that number one figure. The top reasons why players leave the club based on everything that I saw was they didn't like the coach, like we talked about. And I think that's a huge thing. I've been around a long time, and I do think that is a huge detriment to a lot of organizations. And I'll tell you what, maybe I'm in the minority here, but I don't care if you won 35 trophies. I don't care if you were the best coach in the world. If I don't feel comfortable with you, with my child, or if I'm an athlete and I don't feel comfortable with you giving me my direction, I'm going to leave. It's simple, right? You have to have a comfort level. I don't care if you're male, female, it doesn't matter. I don't care if you're 15 or you're 8. If you're not comfortable with your coach in any particular sport, it's time to roll, because you're never going to buy in. You're never going to buy in. I'm really very overwhelmed at how many kids I've been able to get to buy in. I'm going to be honest with you, because I am a complete asshole sometimes. I am, because I expect so much. And I say this all the time to where, how many kids do you have? I have 24. What do you mean? I'm like, all my kids are my kid. I look at my soccer kids as my kid. I care what they do in school. I care what they do on the outside. I care what kind of jobs they have. I want to be a reference for them. I want to give them life lessons. I want to know what basketball team that they like. I want to know what football team that they like. I remember remember messing with kids about not being an Eagles fan. You know, the first day I show up at practice, one of my kids always say, yo, coach, what'd you think about that game last night? Did you see my boys? Like, that's being invested. And you'd be surprised. And again, this isn't being stereotypical here, but it's not just on a female level, it's on a male level as well. They buy in. They really do. And I think that's very important. It's genuine. How many coaches can you say are genuine? And I feel like that I am. And because I am genuine, I've been able to relate to a lot of these kids. But knowing that 60% of kids right now leave because they didn't like a coach, we have to start looking at coaching too. What is that problem? Is it the coach being, how do I say it, all about the win instead of building a program of young men or young women? Is it because he favorites one kid over another? Is it because he doesn't communicate properly? Is it because his methodology, his teachings? I'm not sure. But that's a big number. That's a huge number. 60% is a huge number. Now, let's look on the flip side. The top reasons why players stay with the club. 81% said they stay with the club because of their coach. Check that out. What a big difference. And like I just told you, caring coaching matters. Caring coaching matters. I'll say it again. Caring coaching matters. You have to be invested as a coach. Have to be. I've seen it so many different times where coaches that are playing based on numbers, paid coaches that are worried about winning because they don't get paid if they don't win. Listen, we're not talking about Major League Baseball here. We're talking about a high school level. We're talking about a youth travel level. Yes, the paid coaches that are paid $5,000 a year because you have to be in that ECNL program. And they need to win because if they don't win, they're out. It's simple. Their best interest, your child or your daughter is not their best interest. Their own interest is their best interest because they need to get paid. So if you don't care, then you're, in my opinion, it's a downfall and it's a red flag of any kind of coach. I've been around so many different coaches before I decided to get into the game. The reason why I decided to coach is because I was so hell-bent on not allowing my kids to deal with the absolute bullshit and political motives and the constant toxicity that was just scattered even at a single-digit age level. I said, I am going to do my best to create my own culture on my own teams to not have these kids, especially my kids, deal with it. Unfortunately, they did deal with it, but they did with it in an aspect of where I wasn't coaching, which was in high school and middle school. I have plenty of stories about Klinger Middle School and William Tennant High School. Trust me, we're going to get into that. We're going to get into that a lot, whether it be the AD, whether it be the intoxicated, drunk softball coach, whether it be about the grounds guy, whether it be about the 85-year-old soccer coach that doesn't even know my kid's name. You know, there's a lot of different things that I'm going to tell you that have gone on over the years, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. Because as I tell these stories, people come forward and say the same things. Now, looking at the people who stay, a more surprising reason an athlete and their family stay with the club is the level of player development. Player development is very important, and there are many facets of player development that contribute to why players and families stay with the club. 79% state that they stay with the club when there is focus on player development. It means different things, though. You know, survey these families that, you know, player development meant different things, right? So let's talk about player feedback. Player feedback, I told you earlier, one-on-one level should be going on all the time. It should be an ongoing concept that never ends. They should know what they do well and what they need to work on. It's very simple, okay? Very, very simple. It allows them to further develop their skills, not only as a player, but a human being. Player evaluations, they're more formal and provide a timestamp, usually at the beginning, middle, end of season. Could be the beginning of a game, could be at half, could be the end of the game, different times. It works with coaches and admins, and again, it is a great development tool over time based on metrics and analytics and actual eye tests, right? And body language. That's huge. And then last but not least, communication. It should have a two-way street from all angles, whether it comes from parents to coaches to kids, kids with kids. I mean, you have to ensure that every line is open. And now in the days of digital communication, you have to be very careful. Well, the group texts can get a little monotonous. Bullying can be a huge deal. We'll get into that on another episode where I had to deal with that. And it's not fun. It's not. And it's something that is very real. And you have to put an end to that real quick. Okay? Real quick. That's something I do not stand for. So you have to be very careful when it comes to digital communication. But that one-on-one, coach to player, coach to parent, I think is extremely, extremely important. Now, after hearing all these reasons on why kids stay, why they leave, you heard the percentages, you may be in the same vote. And before before I get to my feel-good story, I do want to say, I would love to hear your input based on this topic. Are you a parent who has moved your son or daughter from organization to organization? Even if you do it every year, I am not going to hold nothing against you. I would be curious to understand why, because I'm always learning too. I say this all the time. Everybody has their opinion. I have mine, you have yours. Maybe you go team to team because you just want a different atmosphere. Okay, that's fine. I'm just curious. And if you stay with the club, I want to hear why. Be anonymous. It's okay. You could just shoot me a DM. You can put it in the comments. You don't even have to, you could put anonymous. You could send me an email, fightingforovertime@gmail.com, and just say, hey, listen, this is an instance that I've learned to deal with. This is an issue that I've had. This is why I've done it. I want to hear, but I want to get to my story because I've always felt that there is a way that you can stay with your program and still benefit at a collegiate level if that's the way you want to play. And I heard a story this week that was fantastic. And again, I do not have the authority to talk by name. I'm sure I could get it if I wanted to, but it doesn't really matter. Okay. It doesn't really matter. It's a local kid and she's phenomenal. She's a great kid. She's a great player. And I've recently found out that she accepted a spot to play as a Division II starter and was the top recruit in her class. The first player scouted and offered a scholarship who played her entire career with one club. One club. And it wasn't an ECNL club. It wasn't the Yukies. It wasn't high profile travel team. It was little old Warminster. That's who I coach for, right? Little old Warminster. Who would have thought in a million years that a kid could play in one program her entire career and actually be the top recruit of a Division II school, who, by the way, guess who was a recruit at number 2 and number 3? A girl who played for the Yuki and another girl who played for the Yukis, who spent thousands and thousands of dollars to try to get to that top spot. Now, again, I am not putting you down if you do that, but what I'm saying is there is an alternative and it can work. And I could not be happier for this kid because she has done nothing but work and work and work. And do you think it never got frustrating for her? Do you think it never got to the point where she probably thought at one time, not because she wanted the scholarship, because she wanted to be more competitive? Those reasons we mentioned earlier, being more competitive, don't you think that it got to that point? I'm sure. She went to tournaments. She guest played. She was at college camps. Right? She saw it, but she wanted to be in a program where she enjoyed her coach. She enjoyed her surroundings. It gave her an opportunity to still be able to be a kid, to not burn herself out, to create her friendships and her moments, and still got a scholarship. Still played Division II. Now, I know there's going to be people out there, they're haters, right? I get it. Say, yeah, well, it wasn't Division I. Again, 1%. Hear me out. Bring it back to the beginning. 1% of kids make it. For girls, specifically, when we talk the odds, when it comes to soccer, 41-1. So stop hating and enjoy the accomplishment that this kid was able to bring forth to this community. It is a wonderful thing. So I just want to let you know out there, if you're listening to this program and you're thinking, do I have to push my kid? All I will say to you is this. This is my own recommendation from Coach Tony. I say this all the time. We are not going to change the way the program works, but what we can do is help prepare the newbies, the new parents, the new athletes that are just starting, to give them an idea of what lies ahead so they can prepare for it, so they understand what to expect. And I will say this, number one priority is always going to be your child. Put them as the emphasis. Put them as a priority. Constant contact, constant communication. What do they want to do? What do they expect to accomplish? How do they expect to accomplish? Hey, Dad, I want to be a Division I baseball player. Okay, son, this is what you have to do. Are you willing to do it? Hey, son, these are the specifics. Hey, Dad, I want to be a Division II soccer player. Okay, great. What do we have to do to accomplish that goal? This is what we need to do. These are the statistics. Be upfront and center, but always make sure there's a smile on your kid's face. Always make sure that they're enjoying what they do. I've said this all the time. It's not about wins. It's about memories and moments. I have so many fond memories and moments of what my kids, not just my own kids, but the kids that I've coached, have done over the years, that I can sit up at night and just think and cry and laugh and clap and understand how lucky and blessed I was to be a part of it. You as a parent should be doing that same damn thing. Stop worrying about trumping all these narratives about your kid has to be the best. Make sure that kid enjoys what they do. And don't worry about what people say. Don't worry about hearing all the gossip on the bench about, well, this person's going here and this person's going here. If you worry about that, it's going to consume you. It's going to make things toxic. And again, that's where the mental health thing comes into play. That's where it's going to mess with your psyche. Don't do it. Trust me. Always follow what your kid wants to do. And always make sure they're in the right mindset and also the right environment to accomplish what they do. Is that coach caring? Does he understand? Do the players around him give off a good vibe? Is it a good atmosphere? What's in it for them? That's what it's all about. And as you just saw, no matter how many times people jump ship, no matter how many times go from program to program, no matter how many times people go chip chasing and medal chasing and trophy chasing and money hunting, at the end of the day, here's an example of one kid who didn't do any of that, who's still smiling to this day, who's committed a year in advance, who's gotten what she wanted and's been able to play out her dream since 8 years old and will continue to play out her dream for the next 5 years. Again, Fighting for Overtime, Coach Tony. Make sure you give us a follow at Fighting for Overtime on Instagram. Fighting for Overtime is a Rise and React media production. If you're looking to start a podcast, if you're looking to get some direction, hit us up, let us know. We'll help you out there as well. Again, for everybody, enjoy your time, memories and moments, and keep fighting that fight. Continue to fight in overtime to make your kid have the best experience that they can have when it comes to playing youth sports.